How many times have you wondered what day your birthday is going to fall on next year, just so you can plan your party accordingly? Or maybe your anniversary or any other important date. What if I tell you we can write a Tosca program to fetch the day, either past, present, or future, just with one click? Hi everyone, my name is Abhishek from Corporate IT Education. If you're new here, I create tutorials on Tosca Automation, Postman, Selenium, and many more. Stay tuned till the end of the video because I'm going to provide you a location where you can download the exact working code to try it on your system. Okay, now let's dive in. Uh, First, we are going to just think about the logic for a moment. Okay, so consider this thing that every year has a 365 days. It has 12 months, then every month is going to have 4 weeks. Okay, and then we have lot of categorizations in terms of how many different days, how many different months, and lot of uh, different formats are also available. Now if we have to build this right from the scratch, it would take a lot of effort for us to form this entirely, the entire logic. However, in case of Tosca, we have lot of functions or features, if you would like to call it, are already available, which we can leverage to very easily and effectively build our program. It's just that we have to be aware about all the different date functions which Tosca has to offer. Okay, so I'm going to explain everything step by step, and we are going to deal with a lot of different errors as well, and we are going to solve that with an explanation so that you're understanding this logic entirely. Okay, now first step, to write the very basic thing, user input and output. Now this is going to be just a two-step program. So first would be user enters any date and Tosca displays which day it is. Okay, only these two things. Now I'll jump into my Tosca commander. I've already created a blank test case with the same name, and I'm going to add two tbox set buffers, standard module. Now why I'm using set buffer? So that I can enter the value and display the value in this specific section. Okay, so I'll just copy this and I'll paste it again. Okay, now the first one, user enters any date, so that I'll put in the first step, and you can call the buffer on which you're taking the input anything of your wish. I am just calling it as user date input. Okay, and let's say I am saying that user maybe wants to calculate the day, yesterday's day. Okay, just so that it is little easy for us to understand. So in my system, as you see, it is saying 11/3/2025, so I will just say 11/2/2025. Okay, now the second section is Tosca display which day it is, so I'll just copy this and I'll paste it here, and I'll maybe call this as day. Okay, now step 2, we have to understand that what date functions Tosca has to offer. So the very important date function which we have to understand is curly brackets DATE close curly brackets. Now this is something which is leveraged in Tosca to get the current date or fetch the current date. If I'll copy this and if I'll paste it here, and I can run this or use a translate value. So I'm right clicking and clicking on translate value. Now you can see it is saying 3rd of November 2025. So it is picking up today's date. But where that input of today's day is coming from? Tosca basically fetches that value from your system date. Okay. Now if you want to expand this function to understand more details about it, how it works is, let me put it down. It basically has 3 sections, so that can be represented in square brackets. And the first section is, and all these are optional parameters, so first is your base date. When I say base date, this is the current day which Tosca is going to consider. If I don't define this, it is going to consider whatever is your system day. But if I explicitly define this, Tosca is going to consider that this is my current day. Second section is your offset. So basically if we want to do some manipulations, we use that. In our specific case, we don't need this, but just so that you understand the syntax. And the third section is format. This we are going to use and understand, but at the later part of the video. Okay, so let me just copy and make a copy of this. Okay, now I want first the base date to be considered as what my user is giving. So what I'll do is, instead of using the current day, I'll use the buffer which I'm passing here as user date input. So what I'll do curly brackets b, and I will close the square brackets and curly brackets. I'll just copy the buffer name from here and I will put it here. Okay, now I don't need the offset, so I'll just remove this. I will remove this and I will just copy this and replace in the second test step. Okay, now I will run both of these and let's see what we are getting. Okay, so this is going to throw us an error. Okay, which we have to understand why it is happening and how do we solve it. Okay, now you see what the error is saying is the value cannot be interpreted as date according to this format. Okay, so let me copy this and put this error here. So this is what we are getting. Now why this is happening? Because when you think about dates, you have a lot of different formats. You can use a slash in between, a hyphen, a dot. Some people might write date first, some people might write month first, and a lot of different variations are there. So for Tosca to understand what way you are entering, we have to standardize that. So that's where in your project settings you will find this. You can handle it at TCP level as well, but where basically it is fetching this value from, I'll just show you quickly. You go to project, you click on settings, and you just search in the settings section with date. Okay, do a control F, just search with date, or if you want you can navigate by clicking on these icons as well. Okay, so here you see dynamic temporal expressions. The moment I click it, you see here Tosca date format is dd.mm.yyyy. There's a target date format as well, which we'll take a look into it. Okay, but in our problem statement, we are not using this format. We are using this format, and we are saying month first, then day, and then year. Okay, so how do I handle that? I go to test configuration and I right click, I add a TCP and just the same name, Tosca date format. What format I want? I want month and then day and then year. Okay, now always remember month is going to be in caps and everything else is going to be in small letters. Okay, now let's run this again and see if it is actually working or not. Okay, now you see, now we have a successful result. However, we are just getting the date and we'll talk about how to get the day very easily, but let's see this. So you see this is coming properly. Okay, now I am entering 11.2 in this specific format, but you see here it is coming in this format. Let me copy this and put it in the notepad so that you are able to see it more clearly. Okay, now this is our output. Okay, buffer with name day has been set to this. However, I am giving it a slash format. So why it is coming like this? Because Tosca reads it in a specific format while displays it in a specific format. We can set it same or different, whatever we wish for, but uh, we can define that. And now I don't want to jump back again to the settings, but this is the same settings which is there, dd.mm.yyyy. That's why it is displaying in this format. Now what I'll do is I will now try to use a inbuilt function in Tosca to fetch the day. Okay, now that is very easy and we are going to run into another error as well, which we'll learn how to solve. Okay, so let's see step 3. Use Tosca's inbuilt function to fetch day based on date. Okay, now there are two things which we can use. So something is called as a day and something is called as l day. Okay, now both of these are functions. So I have to write curly brackets and then square brackets and then curly brackets. Okay, same way it is going to be applied here. Okay, now you see, when I'm going to use these functions, and since these are date related, this specific value should be giving an output of date so that it can perform this function. Okay, but for the moment let's go with a day. I'll explain you the difference between a day and l day in some time. So I have this function. I'll just wrap this up with a day. So what I'll do is I'll put curly brackets, a day, square brackets. I'll put square brackets in the end and then with a curly brackets. Okay, now let me run this again. Okay, or maybe I can use just the translate value. So if I'll right click, I'll translate value. Oh, we are getting an error. Okay, it is saying the value this cannot be interpreted as date according to this format. Let's copy and let's understand why we are getting this. So we are getting that value this cannot be interpreted as date according to this format. We were entering the value in the format what it is expecting, but it is saying that it cannot read and it is coming in this format. The reason being is when we are using the internal date function. So let me go back, this internal date function. Okay, it is accepting the value in this specific way, but uh, it is taking the input in this specific way, but it is giving the output in this specific way. So the output of this section is going to be in this format. Okay, now this can be manipulated or dealt with a section called target date format. Okay, now target date format is basically how it is going to display the value. Okay, now you see, since this is cannot be interpreted as date, what I'll do is I will, maybe I can change the display in this format or the other way around as well. So let's take this format for now. I'll go to test configuration and I will search for another TCP here, which will be called as target date format. Okay, and I'll use, maybe I'll copy the same thing and I'll put it here. Okay, I'll again jump back to this and I'll run my program. Okay, hopefully this should work now, but let's see. So you see we are getting a past. Okay, now let's jump into any day which we want to use. Okay, uh, maybe some past day, or let's say I want to say this is my month, so I will say 08. I want to know when India got the independence, and this I'll say 15, and this I'll say 1947. Okay, I want to know which date India got independence, what day it was when India got independence. So if I'll run this, see it is saying that buffer with this day has been set to Friday. Now let's quickly just cross validate what day it was on 15th of August 1947. Okay, it was Friday. Okay, so you can use calendar. I just use Google so that I don't need to navigate that much, but it is working fine and we are getting Friday here. Okay, let me just quickly jump back to the scratchbook so that we can validate this. Okay, so you see Friday. Now you might think that we don't need problem statements like these uh, because it is very easy to check it from calculator, but try to implement this into the business logics. Now let's say you have to build a program in which you may be attending a payroll system in which you have to transfer salaries to the employees. Now banks do not work on Sundays and all, so you will do it on last working day which falls on a weekday. This problem statement can be expanded to very easily solve these kind of real world use cases. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll make an export of this test case and I will put a link. If you'll see in the description section, I'll put a link where you can go to my TopMate profile and you'll be able to see the working code. You can download that for entirely free and you can try it on your systems. uh, don't forget to like, share and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any more Tosca tutorials like this. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.